Welcome to the beautiful city of Athens, the gateway to the Tennessee Valley, a city rooted in deep community relationships and built on a rich tradition of small local business and the very best of the human spirit. As Athens embraces the future, the signs of progress are in full bloom. Join us as we discover the bright spots in this charming southern city that we call home. This is Hometown Heartbeat, Athens. I am William Wallace. No, I'm just kidding. What's going on, everybody? Today is Friday. It is Hometown Heartbeat, episode 51-ish, give or take, more or less. We're not entirely sure, but we think that's close. But more importantly than that, it is Friday. And, man, do we have an announcement for you. Finally, Connor. Let me check in with Connor. Connor.
Hello.
How are you, buddy?
Who's he?
Oh, wait, no, go back. This is our new intern there in the back, Davis. Last name Bates. Bates? Like the motel. Davis is a freshman and going into sophomore year at Alabama. He is a social, digital, what's the name of your actual? Creative media major at Alabama, and he will be joining Connor. What does he create? Well, who's talking? We've not even introduced our guest yet. That's
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Well, let's go ahead and bring Ronald in now since he's with us. Ronald Gulick, my old buddy, joining us again.
What's up, fellas?
And we're gonna take on a pretty heavy topic today. Again, I think we talked about it yesterday some, and we'll talk about it some more today because it's something that I think we would be foolish to act as if it isn't happening and act as if isn't real. And I don't think anybody's doing that, but the reaction that's happening there now is something that needs to be addressed. And so we're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, first of all, Ronald, how are you doing, buddy?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good. This week was pretty good. It's pretty uneventful up here, So we just went back. There was a phase 1 opening for today. So here in Northern Virginia, where I live and currently reside, and so I was able to go to my CrossFit gym for the first time in 2 months. I know all you guys out there in at least video land can tell I do CrossFit, but I don't know. Does my voice sound stronger that I do CrossFit? I mean, can you get a voice? Can you work your voice out to where it sounds like where you're more manly?
If you can, you haven't been much, maybe. Oh, you got served.
That's right. I mean, I do have a little bit of a higher pitched voice than you. I think yours is like a little bit lower, maybe more suited for the voiceovers in the
or what about talk radio? You think my voice is maybe suited for talk radio?
Probably not. I'm just kidding.
Well, in that vein, let me go ahead and make an announcement.
Smooth and slow.
So here it is, guys. Here it is. We've been waiting, and we've teased it 3 or 4 times, and that's because we've been going back and forth and trying to officially tie everything up. And it's not. I mean, the documents are not signed, the paperwork's not there, but the agreement has been reached, and we've been offered the 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. slot on WVNN here locally. And so we are waiting on our official start date. We will likely be the 8th, so a week from Monday. But, man, we're super pumped. We are officially going to be on the radio. And we'll be from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. on WVNN right before Dale Jackson. And it's going to be exactly what you get from us here, except for you're going to get 2 hours of it and have some commercials in between, hopefully.
Does anybody wake up at 5 a.m.?
I wouldn't know. I've not been up that early in a long time, so this should be interesting to say the least.
Especially these days.
Josh Carman joining us. Malin Jones of Hootenanny Barbecue. Hootenanny Barbecue, the only perfect barbecue in the world. Malin always says the only thing God made perfect was his barbecue, and he's not that far off base there because they're really freaking good. We're working on a little advertising for Malin, try to help him get the word out. He's a good dude. He's actually in the process of remodeling a house with us, like fixer-upper style, so he and his wife agreed to buy one of our disheveled old properties that we are going to be taking through the process of the remodel, and so he's watching and waiting, I'm sure, both on the house and on the show. Robert Rigsby, our most loyal listener, by the way. Robert, I officially want to dub you the most loyal listener. Robert, I don't know that Robert's missed a show. Hopefully, Robert has subscribed to the podcast, as has everybody else, because that's a very important metric for us. So if you've not subscribed to our podcast, please go and do so. It's under Hometown Heartbeat with Zach Walker on Apple, Spotify, Shopify, whatever, everywhere you could listen to a podcast. We're there. So, that's our big announcement. We're going on talk radio, WVNN, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. And as of now, we have one listener because Robert Rigsby says he will be joining. And so we are halfway there. We're on our way. Cody Vine's joining us. That's a throwback. That's a throwback there, man. Whoo, that's one of my good buddies from way back in the day. Okay. Connor, pull up some imagery. I want you to pull some imagery of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Because overnight, last night, a situation developed in Minneapolis, and Ronald, you were not here yesterday for the segment, and so I want to give you the baseline of my opinion, so that you
listen to about 10 minutes of it.
He listened to 10 minutes of it. He's our second most loyal listener.
That's right.
But for the baseline of my opinion, and honestly, I believe the baseline of the opinion across the country. By the way, like not just us here, not just like there. I've not heard anyone who's seen that video. In a lot of cases, in police brutality over the last 5 years, you've heard a lot of people try to make excuses or say, well, what did they do to deserve that? Or I'm sure they resisted arrest, or fill in the blank. And look, in some of those cases, due process and the judicial system, it proved that there was something that had happened prior to that, and that led up to that. The moment that anybody saw what happened in Minneapolis, I've not heard a single person say, well, that very well may have been justified. I've not heard, I mean, from the top down, from the president saying the Department of Justice and they're all going to be, so just to be clear on my stance and where we as a show, Hometown Heartbeat, are, and Ronald, are you frozen? We've lost Ronald. Let us get him back. But just to be clear where we're at as a show, we have not at any point in time said anything outside of we believe what happened is wrong, and we believe that there needs to be justice and all of that. And so that is that straight up baseline right there, okay? You're not going to hear anything outside of that from us. And while Connor's working to get Ronald back, you might have to restart Skype. But as Ronald is trying to join us again, I just want to be clear again. That is our baseline. What has happened is absolutely, there's no way to justify it. There's no way to explain it. There's no way to do anything other than say it was wrong. That being said, there was a huge response to this, and I've heard all the different answers. Do we have him back? Okay, so I've heard all different responses out there talking about well, this is our frustration. This is us not being heard for too long. This is us not. All those things could be entirely valid. Okay, they could all be entirely valid. But what is happening to Minneapolis, in no way does it bring any sort of justice for a family. In no way does it honor the memory of George Floyd, who is inevitably, from everything I've read, a very peaceful and gentle, kind soul, and all the stuff that I've seen and heard. And so, look, if you're in Walmart or Target rather, and you're coming out with a shopping cart full of stuff that you've stolen while looting, that, like, the proclamation that I hear is Black Lives Matter, okay? And while I agree, Black Lives absolutely matter. And honestly, there is a history of aggression and or oppression towards a certain time. I'm with all that. But as you run out of Target with your shopping cart full of stolen, looted goods, what you're saying is not Black Lives Matter. What you're saying is, I'm an opportunist who is a criminal who saw the opportunity to plunder and steal this stuff from this company. And guess what? Target, unaffected. Doesn't matter. Target, humongous corporation, insurance covered. You're not going to touch Target. Target couldn't care less. But what you have done, jobs gone. Will they rebuild? Hopefully. We hope so. But if they don't, those jobs are gone. Your community is being destroyed. Let's talk about this gentleman. His last name was Balla, B-A-L-L-A. If you could pull that up, Connor. At some point, you're trying to get Ronald back, so maybe not a huge deal. He said he's back now. Ronald is. Look at this Balla gentleman as Connor gets there, and we're going to bring Ronald back in here shortly. But he's a firefighter and an entrepreneur in Minneapolis, okay? And as a firefighter, he serving his community. He's an African-American gentleman, and he also, like, he just opened a bar or is in the process of opening a sports bar, little local neighborhood sports bar that has been his life's work and his life's dream, really. He's put all his life savings in it. They were slated to open up in the beginning of this year or this spring, and then coronavirus stepped in and wiped that out, right? And so now all of a sudden he's delayed. They're waiting. Literally, like last week, they were just getting ready to roll it out, and as they did, George Floyd gets killed. Last night, his bar was burnt to the ground. An African-American firefighter, entrepreneur in Minneapolis who spent his entire life saving to open a local neighborhood sports bar, create jobs, and stimulate the economy in the very neighborhood that George Floyd lived. His bar was burnt to the ground and looted. They drug the safe out. I want someone to tell me, how does that honor the memory of George Floyd? Like, how does that bring any sort of justice? Your proclamation of Black Lives Matter is not symbolized or affirmed by the violence and the looting and the destruction of the very community. Because here's what happens. Let me make this economically clear for you. Are we having issues over there?
Ronald is not online, and since we upgraded the operating system, I can't show you images or articles today. I'd have to quit the live stream and start it up again.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's do that. Everybody hang tight. We'll be right back. We're gonna restart because I want to bring Ronald back in, and he can't join us either. So, what do you think, Connor?
Well, Ronald just isn't answering.
No, he's sitting there looking at his computer.
Well, I'm calling him and saying that he isn't online. Have him call me or something, or call this account.
Okay. So look, I'm sorry we're having some technical issues today, obviously. But look, let me break down the economic. Do you hear that?
I have no idea where that's coming from.
Neither do I. We're struggling today, man. We haven't had technical issues like this in a while. It was my phone. Let me break down the economic impact of the looting and the rioting and those types of things, right? So here's how that works. Like, if you're Target, it doesn't matter, okay? If you're Target, you've got your insurance, you've got all that. AutoZone, big corporate store, doesn't matter. Not going to touch them. But what it does is those small like community stores and those small locally owned businesses, they will likely not be rebuilt, right? And so all we've now done is we've taken hundreds of jobs in this town, we've destroyed them. They may or may not come back, and now hundreds of people who once were employed or those who were looking to become employed at those jobs will have no other option but to look for other employment. If that employment doesn't exist, then what? This is how cities, like, look at Detroit and look at the great resurgence they're having there, right? And all the money that's being dumped into that. But if you go back to the collapse of Detroit and I don't know if you've ever studied that, but it's an incredible study on how like what the impact is of stuff, not necessarily like this, but the concept is the same, right? In that as jobs are ripped away, as a industry is ripped away from a community, the community, like a lot of the people in that town, have no other options but to turn to crime or turn to whatever other things. And it's just like, it's crazy how we think we can we're going to honor George Floyd. That's not honoring him. Like, if you have an intelligent argument and you can articulate to me right now, I will give you my number. You can call in and we can do it right here. Like, I want to hear you. Like, I do. But if you have something that you can tell me as to why, if someone I know can justify why looting and rioting and burning down the city of Minneapolis makes any sense whatsoever, I'd love to hear it. And we have Ronald back, so Ronald's going to join us now. But hey, buddy, sorry about that. You all right?
I think that was my end. Something glitched in my internet.
Oh, it's all good,
but
buddy.
It's back now.
Well, what I was just talking about was the looting and the
technology. I mean, you were on a roll.
I was, and then I'll get back on it. Don't worry. It's like a snowball downhill, baby. But it's so what I was saying is, like, the looting, the rioting, like, there's nothing about that justifies or glorifies or like cements his legacy. There's nothing of substance, quality, or anything good that will come from what's happening. Instead, rather, it's an opportunistic it becomes crime of opportunity for people who otherwise couldn't care less about George Floyd or his life, but see an opportunity to enrich themselves either personally or whatever by running into Target. And I saw a picture of a guy with 5 TVs on a shopping cart.
Yeah.
Like,
it's also an opportunity. Like, what I really don't get, and I don't know if this is, but it's the fact that when you do that, it completely takes, anybody on the other side that struggles with what happened as being racism and, the white privilege, anybody that's white and doesn't think they have white privilege, anybody like that, you are doing no good by doing that to have any type of situation where that person is going to come at you and say, hey, you know what, maybe you're right. They're sitting back in their homes right now and they're saying, see, this is exactly what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. So it's just interesting to me that there's just, and I don't like, I think to me and I haven't seen many of the African-American leaders coming out and like completely speaking against it. Have they? I have not really pulled up the news yet this afternoon. Has anybody come out and really?
Yeah, there's been a couple guys, and Connor, we're having some issues with our today's just been a fun day all the way around. We upgraded our operating system, and it's precluding us from screen sharing graphics today, but we'll have that fixed by Monday. But there was one leader that stood up and spoke out and said, this is not Martin. This is not Dr. King's dream. This is not the fight that we've all been fighting. This is, by the way, and I've seen a lot of this. This is not why Kaepernick kneeled. Like, he did not kneel for you to go loot. In fact, take a page out of that playbook. And by the way, just to be very clear, I just want to be super clear on something. Because I've seen a lot of reverse racism, I guess is what you'd call it, or reverse stereotyping or whatever. When it says, you see a lot of this, all these white people were pissed when Kaepernick took a knee, but now they don't want us to protest this way because no, hold on a minute. Like, let's back up for a second, just to be clear. My position, I didn't have a show every day at that point, but just so everyone can like context to who I am, I never had a problem with what Kaepernick was doing. You know why? I joined the military. I signed up to go and fight for his right to do whatever he wanted to do as an American. If he wants to kneel, baby. If the NFL wants to say that's against our policy and procedure, and as your employer, we have the right to take your job away from you, that's between them and them. But his opportunity and right to kneel during the national anthem, I've never said anything bad about it, okay? So just before you go paint me as that honky Trump build that wall guy, you need to know who I am, okay? And so that being said, like, I've seen that comparison, and then here's the other comparison I've seen, Ronald, that really, really irritates me. I've seen the picture of the Michigan State House with the white armed protesters, right? And they're open carrying their weapons in the Michigan. It was last month. It was the coronavirus. They were basically, they were protesting the lockdown, saying this is unconstitutional. Yeah. You can't lock us down. So these guys, they take their arms. They're all toting an AR-15, and they all go up in the Congress or whatever it is, a state house. It's a big state capitol building, right? I need to address that because you're going to piss me off. People start putting that out there and talking about that like it's the same thing. Let me educate you for a minute, because here's a couple things you have to understand. One, if your state, like in Alabama where I live, if I want to walk down the street with an AR-15 strapped to my chest, I'm within my legal right to do so. Now, would I personally do that? No, I think you're an idiot. But I am legally within my right to do so. That being said, the difference in the white armed men and women that went to the Congress and the State House and whatever in Michigan and what happened last night, because here's what they were saying, Ronald. They had a picture of these white guys over here with these big guns, and they were screaming. They were right up in the face of these people. And then on the bottom, you've got the tear gas being shot into crowds of African Americans last night in Minneapolis. And they said these white people, all they did was they didn't get any tear gas. And then all these black people protesting George Floyd's death, they got gassed and rubber bulleted and put in jail. And let me just be very clear on something. If the state building that those men and women were in caught on fire and arson was the cause, I can assure you lethal deadly force would have been used on everyone that was a part of that, white, black, yellow, green, or brown. Does not matter. And I want everyone to hear me say this. And Ronald, this is my truth here, my blanket statement. So take the, this is where if I could sum my beliefs up on all this right now. I have a really hard time calling all of this racism because we have no idea if that cop was a racist. Was he evil? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely he was. Does he deserve to be put under the jail for murdering that man? Without question. But was he a racist? Maybe. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I might even take it a step further and people not like me. I mean, I'm a big proponent of due process, no matter what. I also am a huge proponent of having experience editing videos myself and being able to manipulate what people think based on how I portray a video. Like, there's just so much information out there that you can't gain from a 30-second video. Now more video has come out, right, that shows that he did not seem to be resisting arrest like they said, right? But yeah, I just, it's hard to say he's racist. I agree. It's hard to say that because we don't know the intent. We don't know his heart. And I would say too, it's, to me, at least right now, it's hard for me to fully say that I would convict him if I was a juror.
Sure.
Now, do I think he did something wrong? Absolutely. From the look of that video, it absolutely looks like he did something wrong. So again, like you said, don't paint me as somebody that's saying he's not guilty or whatever, but I do still believe in innocent until proven guilty.
Well, if we lose that, we lose the very tenets this country was built on.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, just the whole racism thing. I mean, living in Northern Virginia. I mean, I'm from Texas originally. When I grew up in a high school. I think I said this before. I grew up in a high school that had a lot of Hispanics and one black guy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I wasn't racist towards any of them just because we all grew up in the same place and all of that stuff. Now, when I come up to Northern Virginia, I mean, there's everybody here. I mean, I go back to Texas and it's like, it's whites and Hispanics. That's mainly from where I grew up. That's what it is. When I come up here, we have Indians, we have Asians, we have black people, we have white people, we have, I mean, you name it. We have people that wear, I can't even remember what they're called, but the women that only show their eyes.
Hijabs or something like that.
Yeah, we have people that wear that. I mean, I get uncomfortable if I see somebody dressed in Arab garb. Now, uncomfortable might be a wrong word, but I'd take a look at that. If somebody also walked in dressed in, gangster attire where where their shorts are hanging on and they have a hood and all that stuff, I would probably look at that person too. White, black, Asian, whatever, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Likewise, if Billy Bob Redneck walked in with his Wrangler jeans 100%. On and a 6-shooter on both sides of his hip, I'm going to take a notice of that too.
Absolutely. If I was around Michigan, if I was around the Michigan with all those guys, I would have turned the other way because I don't want to be around idiots with guns. Now, I don't know if they were idiots or not, but I certainly don't want to be around it, especially when when there's tensions running high and people are yelling. So it's like I would run the other way. Absolutely,
well, there's no point
100%.
and putting yourself in, and I think that's what you're trying to say. And here's the thing: some of your statements you just made would be considered entirely racist. Like you would now be painted as racist Ronald. And the reality is
that's a good nickname.
It is. I never mind. I had some. Never mind. Never mind.
Other than Big R.
Yeah. No. Never mind. We were talking about building a character. So but no. It's one of those things that like color played no role in any of what you just said. The color of the skin said it had no role in anything you were saying, and you were being very real. And Ronald, I appreciate the raw and real. Like, that's a level of openness and honesty that a lot of people are unwilling to talk about right now, because again, you will get painted in a way if you say that in front of the wrong people that's not accurate. And so, but what you said was there are certain traits or characteristics that over time have been correlated to certain things that are, maybe it's clothing or maybe it's fill in the blank, that are indicators of a certain lifestyle or activity that would make you hesitant or aware in any situation. And look, if there's anybody in 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that got on a plane and wasn't feeling some of the things that you were just talking about after planes had been hijacked and ran into buildings, like you and I were, I mean, how far did we live from the Pentagon? I mean, Teresa Roth was on here with me on Tuesday talking about Bob and his, I mean, we were directly impacted by that in a way that most people weren't. And it changed the way that I felt about things for a time. And that's okay. I never felt a hatred or even a dislike or anything towards any certain type of person for it, but it opened my eyes to a concept or I mean, it's not, again, it wasn't a person. It was more like the concept of the hijacker. Like, we were now aware a plane could be hijacked, right? And so you're certainly, you're constantly looking at everything. It's the same thing you're talking about, right? It's that situational awareness and how history plays into that.
Well, there's only one person that ever walked this world that probably had perfect or that did have perfect discernment, and that's Jesus Christ, right? So, I mean, God is that guy that does perfect discernment, you know. So when I say that, you know, it's interesting because I know I will be the first to admit that I have bias, and I have some blind spots too, like meaning that I don't even know where some of my biases are. I'm pretty sure that none of my biases are around skin color, just because, you know, but then again, somebody would say, well, that's because you have white privilege. Maybe not. But, you know, I am definitely one that would say that we all have bias. And what gets me is that when people walk around and speak so confidently about one side or the other, you know, with that said, and saying this is the way we all should think, when at the end of the day, when I talk to people face to face, I mean, there's hardly anybody that I find that I disagree with. The funny thing is, but I can find everybody I disagree with on Facebook. You know, it's just, you know, how do we get back to having those face-to-face interactions and people getting away from, you know, having relationships online?
Man, it's that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up today too, is like, again, I wasn't going to touch this subject again after yesterday's episode until what I saw today. And what I saw today was I don't know what the word is, disgusting. In terms of the division line that you see across Facebook, like you see a cross that a Savior died on for us, right? And for George Floyd, for that cop that killed him, for everybody, right? And it's almost as if I like, to me, this thing I saw today was that cross as it just dividing the, like, literally as there's just division amongst his people, the people that he came for and created. And that's a bit of a weird kind of but to me, like, that's the image that I got today, was like, man, we have a God that loves everyone, loves all of us, and desires all of us to be in constant, real relationship with him. And yet we can't all stand together and say, what happened to George Floyd was terrible, and we need to get that right. Here's the deal. Minneapolis, Minnesota had an opportunity. On the world stage 2 nights ago, Minneapolis, Minnesota had bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 2 outs, 2 strikes, and you can win the World Series right here, Minneapolis. All you got to do is get a base hit. And I mean, think about this. The stage was set, Ronald. The president that they all love to hate, had stood up and said, we are not going to let this stand. Like, that was awful, and justice will be had. I'm going to commit the Department of Justice. I'm going to commit, we will investigate, we will find it out, and we will absolutely get justice for George Floyd. So at the highest level, I had police officers reaching out after the show yesterday talking to me about, man, you hit the nail on the head. Like, as a cop, I am so tired of these knuckle-dragging cops that just think that their badge is a crown and they can just act with complete authority to do whatever it is they want. They had white people, they had black people, they had brown people, they had churches, they had racists in some case, right? I mean, everybody. Like, this was the first time that I can remember a case like this where literally everybody was watching it saying that will not stand. And all they had to do was not burn the city to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even take it a step further. You said that he had to get a single in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, I think it was a ball in the dirt that he just didn't have to swing at, and they would have won.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like getting a single in the bottom of the ninth is pretty hard. I mean, you play baseball. I mean, that's a high pressure situation, man.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's exactly right. All they had to do was stand there. Really. I mean, the guy couldn't throw strikes, save his life, and they were going to walk him, and he was going to walk in the winning run. All they had to do was stand there and not swing their bat, and they just swung it 3 pitches in the dirt. And I mean, I cannot. The imagery that I saw last night, Ronald, and I wish we could show some of this stuff right now, but there was a and it's disturbing to me, emotional to me. There was a bridge some 30 miles away, and a woman posted it on Facebook, and I think I saw it well before. I don't even know if it's gone viral yet. It might not be something that's super popular yet, but she was 30 miles away. Her husband's a photographer, and he was able to capture, I mean, it looked like the beginning of a zombie movie, where way off in the distance, some 30, 40 miles away, in the middle of the pitch black, you could just see orange. You could just see orange. And I don't know. I mean, and look, and here's the other thing. And hey, Minneapolis cops, if you're listening, which I'm sure our audience is so big, I'm sure they're all tuned in right now, just locked in, glued to the TV and the podcast and all that. Yeah, that's right.
Demographic right there.
Yeah, that's right. Minneapolis popos. But listen, hey guys, arresting the journalist from CNN, you're an idiot. Why in the name of, St. Jehoshaphat would we ever in a million years decide it was a good idea to harass the journalist from, and unfortunately, I think, this is still a relatively new developing story, but I think, unfortunately, CNN didn't freaking change this one. No fake news on this one, which is their typical play. But on this one, like literally, it was an African American, or he might have had some, I forgot his name, but he was a brown skinned reporter, and he was very, very polite to the police. He was absolutely 100%, Mr. Officer, like where do we need to be? Like, we're just capturing this. We're not involved. Like, dude, they had 4 or 5 guys, cameras, producers, mics. I mean, it was obvious. It wasn't like some dude with a cell phone running around. Like, this is a full-blown CNN on-site production crew. And literally, on camera, they took the mic out of his hand and put it on the ground and put him in handcuffs. Like,
no, I'm just now reading about that. I don't even know that I saw that before.
Oh, here's the worst part. You want to hear the worst part, Ronald? Let me tell you the worst part. I'm ready. The camera recorded in the car all the way to the freaking station. Oh, wow. Their camera was rolling the whole freaking time. And here's the thing. The gentleman that got arrested, he got released this morning, and I read an interview with him, or listened to an interview with him, where he said, guys, listen, I want to be very clear. He goes, the gentleman that arrested me and everyone that I've dealt with from the time I was put in those handcuffs until this morning has been incredibly nice to me. He said they've not been the first, which I don't know how he still has a job at CNN, to be that honest. But I'm kidding, bad joke. But he wanted to make sure that it was clear that nobody abused him, mistreated him, any of those things. He just said it came from, he goes, the cop that arrested me said, dude, I'm sorry, I'm following orders. What idiot the idiot that made that call was probably the idiot that decided to hire that cop that put his knee on George Floyd's neck. Like, it was that stupid of a move for you to do that, because like why, Ronald? Why
were they not in the right place? Like, was the cop saying you're not in the right place?
The cop didn't say anything to him. He just arrested him. It was the most unbelievable. Like, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Life of me.
You touched on it yesterday. I mean, the part that I listened to yesterday, I mean, you touched on it. I mean, there are people in the badge that shouldn't be in the badge. You know, there are people in politics that obviously shouldn't be in politics. You know, there's people in every job that shouldn't be in every job, or that any job. It's just, you know, there's people in talk radio that shouldn't be in talk radio.
Easy, right?
So it's just a matter of one of those things, man. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's just like sometimes, but again, it goes back to the fact of sometimes when you see those things, you're like, in our mind, we're thinking that was so stupid. Why would you do that? Right. But at the same time, you know, there could have been some thinking. I'm a firm believer too. And this might not be this particular situation, but I'm a firm believer. And it kind of goes back to a little bit about was it Julia Cooper in the park? Was her name Julie Cooper in Central Park recently that called the cops on a
the old bird watcher, the bird watcher gangster.
So, I mean, it goes back to, I mean, part of it is that, like, I mean, I don't think she should have done what she had done. Was it racist? You know, I don't know. But to me, it goes back to, I mean, in high stress situations, many of us have not been in high stress situations.
Mm-hmm.
And how would we react in a high stress situation? Our biases come out in high stress situations. No question. And that's a thing that I also give to, you know, kind of the benefit of the doubt that I give to people as well. It's like, you know, the people that have never been in a high stress situation, I don't feel like I've ever been in a high stress situation. I've never had a gun pulled on me. I've never been arrested. You know, I've never had anybody tell me to leash my dog, even though that might not be as high stress as some of the other things. But, you know, you come across those situations, you get yourself worked up. I tell you what, I have been concerned, and I worked myself up when I'm sitting on a plane and an Arab gentleman sits next to me or sits close to me. I have worked myself up in those situations, not to the point to say anything, but just been, you know, and in those situations I pray and I say, okay, Ronald, calm down. But it's something I think about, you know, and maybe, you know, again, I didn't work myself up into the situation where she worked herself up into, but again, it kind of comes down to how would we react in those situations? And I think it's very, you know, judgmental for us to even think that we wouldn't react poorly, because we all react poorly in many situations, and we're not willing to give other people the benefit of the doubt. But then again, I don't know where that balancing act comes between giving somebody the benefit of the doubt and saying, okay, as a society, we need to do something about this. We have to say something. We can't remain silent, you know? And I think that's what I struggle with as well.
No, that's good. I mean, as always, our time has flown through the day, and we're gonna go ahead. Of course, we spent 10 minutes chasing old Ronaldo here after his
internet, man. I'm so sorry about that.
I forgive you this time. Don't do it again, or I'll have to dock your pay.
Yeah, that's right. Fire me.
All right, guys. It's Friday, as always. You know what that means. It means don't do anything I wouldn't do this weekend. And on Monday, we look forward to having some more real information about the talk radio show. But man, we're super excited. Mama, I made it. That's how I feel right now. Even though I have to. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. But Ronald,
you haven't made it yet. You have to get 1,000. Wait. You have to get more than 2 followers. Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell people what we got. We got to have 3 followers to stay on the radio. Don't tell them that, man. Don't tell them that. I have to call my mama and them. No, look, it's been a blast with you as always, Ronald. We'll have to do it again next week so that we can try to go. Well, let's try to get like a hardwired connection there in your old office.
I agree, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I forgive you.
My kids are freaking playing Xbox while I'm trying to do this, probably.
Oh, well, then you just need to shut down the router. You just need to shut her down.
I need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiffany Sanders, thank you so much. Tiffany Sanders said, very good show today. Appreciate you listening, Tiffany, and I appreciate everyone. Listen, if you don't know how to find us, then you're not looking hard enough, because we are everywhere. We are on Apple iTunes. We're on Spotify, Shopify, Shopify, Yotify, whatever, the Facebox, the Twitter, the Instabook. We're all over the place, folks. You can find us anywhere. Check out the podcast. Hometown Heartbeat with Zach Walker. In the meantime, we love you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your family. Don't take a single breath for granted. And we will see you guys on Monday. If you need a place to worship, join us at Life Point in Decatur, Sunday 9 and 10:30. Hope to see you guys there. Kelly Hudson, no, you have a good weekend. You, Kelly, you have a better weekend. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Ronald, as always, thanks, my Zach, friend, you're a gentleman and a scholar.
Thank you.
Take it away, Connor.